I was going to assign everybody a pew, an individual pew, but don't actually have enough for that either. So, okay, let's go, guys. Come on. I like that new work. Some more volume. You gotta make I let God do the work. I let God do the work. I let God do the work, and it comes out right. I let God do the work. I let God do the work. I let God do the work, and it comes out right. Okay, one more word. I let God do the work. I let God do the work. I let God do the work, and it comes out right. I let God do the work. I let God do the work. I let God do the work, and it comes out right. Sing the song. I let God sing the song. I let God sing the song. I let God sing the song, and it comes out right. I let God sing the song. Let God sing the song. I let God sing the song, and it comes out right. Speak the word. Let God speak the word. Let God speak the word. I let God speak the word, and it comes out right. Let God speak the word. Let God speak the word. I let God speak the word, and it comes out right. Hey, do the work. I let God do the work. I let God do the work. I let God do the work, and it comes out right. Every time I let God do the work. I let God do the work. I let God do the work, and it comes out right. I let God do the work, and it comes out right. And it does. Welcome, all of you. Lynn is, let me go over the absences. Lynn is at a Vivaldi concert at Soka University, and I can't blame her because Vivaldi Four Seasons is wonderful. It's one of my personal favorites. So she had to be down there, and Sandra's just plain late, so don't know about that. And I think that's all. Anybody have anything they want to announce, ask for prayers, anything? No, nobody's raising their hand. Everything is, so your lives are perfect? Oh.
It's my granddaughter's birthday. She's 26 today.
Okay, granddaughter's 26 today. Let's give her a blessing of love. Susan, my dear.
Yes, I would like divine right action, well, it already is, for the Patriots. I mean, and the Jaguars. Very hard.
It's so hard when we know God doesn't have a favorite football team. It really is. It makes us bummed. Yes, I know. They were kicking off just about the time I was pulling out of my driveway, so I was like, oh, that's okay. I probably would make me too nervous to watch it anyway. They're right now. Oh, Tom? Oh, yeah, he's playing. I hope he knows about Melaleuca tea tree oil for the cut on his hand. So, he's making a big deal out of the cut on his hand. So, anything else? Okay, let's go to our opening hymn. It's in your bulletins, and so are we. We'll sing along with the celebration choir. God is light, and so are we. God is love, and so are we. God is light, and so are we. It's truth that cannot be denied. God is power, and so are we. God is peace, and so are we. God is beauty and joy, and so are we. practicing the ability to this past week? All right, that's what I like to hear. Okay, so if you'll just sit back and take a deep breath, ground yourself here and now in the present moment. And today, as we gather together at Heartlight, we know that we have set as our goal and our firm intention to be love in this world, to walk through the world without judgment, without rancor, without anger, to walk through the world in the spirit of namaste, knowing that each and every soul that we encounter could benefit from our presence, from our love, and from our compassion. Today we affirm those qualities, we affirm our identities, we affirm our consciousness, and we affirm our commitment to this path. And let us say together, and so it is, Amen. Thank you. And our lay reading today is Mr. Rich. And Sandra, can you come up to your front seat so I could see you? Because you're completely hidden back there. I know you only went there because we were in the midst of the meditation. There's room here, anywhere you'd like. We have a lot of seating. Okay, let's find where you're from. Right there, right there.
That's good. I'm going to read today from something that I read a few years back, but I really want its energy to be present in this world today and carry forward from today. Ilshili, his prayer of peace, which he presented to the UN in the year 2000, and I will start reading. I offer this prayer of peace, not to any one God, nor to many gods, not to the Christian God, nor the Jewish God, nor the Buddhist God, nor the Islamic God, and not even to the indigenous gods of many nations, but to the divinity within that we all hold inside, that makes us all brothers and sisters, to make us truly a one family in the name of humanity. I offer this prayer of peace to the cosmic oneness that is our birthright and our privilege and our strength. That should we let it shine and show us the way, will guide us to the road of peace. Not the Christian peace, not the Jewish peace, not the Islamic peace, nor the Buddhist peace, and not even the indigenous peace of many nations, but the human peace that has a place in the hearts of all people to allow us to truly fulfill our divine potential, to become the children of one humanity. I offer this prayer of peace to allow us all to realize the truth of our existence, to allow us all to discover the sanctity of our lives, to allow us all to seek the spirituality of our beings. Please allow us to experience with all our hearts and our souls the intimate connection to the divine that we all possess inside, for our bodies are the temples of worship, and our souls the altars upon which we shall stand tall and live out the true meaning of our existence. I offer this prayer of peace to declare a revolution of the human spirit. I wish to announce that it is now time for all of us to spiritually awaken and become enlightened. For the time for the enlightened few is over. The age of elitist enlightenment has passed. And for how long do we seek to wait for prophets to come down from mountaintops and tell us what to do? We all must become enlightened, to recognize our divinity, to raise up our consciousness and proclaim our independence from the blind reliance on long-ago sages, and find the answers from our own well of spiritual wisdom. We must ourselves become the enlightened ones. We must ourselves realize our oneness. I declare that we must all become earthlings of the earth, and not of any religion, nation, or race, but of this earth, for this earth, and by this earth, to create a lasting peace on earth. I offer this prayer of peace for the United Nations, in which we stand here today, to lift itself from the quicksand of political need, politicking, that's a new word, and to live out its distinctly spiritual goal, to eradicate the disease of war and to create an equitable and peaceful world. Let us hope that the UN finds the strength and the will to become the spokesman for all people of the earth, and not just for a few privileged nations. Let us wish upon the UN the wisdom to become the beacon that we can all follow to the promised land of love and peace. I pray to thee. God of all gods, the divine that lives within us and connects us in one life, that you grant us the vision to establish a spiritual UN that will guide us to the next millennium. And I offer this prayer of peace with all my fellow earthlings for a lasting peace on earth.
Thank you, Rich. That was just perfect. It's always perfect. And I like the fact that this prayer doesn't speak to a God, anybody's particular version of God. And we have our own version, don't we? That's very Heartlight Jan. So, we start a new series today, and we talk about the fact that human beings are very resilient. Aren't all of you resilient? You adjust, right? You adjust to whatever is happening. And you adjust to what's happening in your own world and to the world at large. And that is not always a positive reaction when you adjust, right? Sometimes you adjust unwillingly. You say, well, damn it, I guess I'll just have to do this. So that's not quite the same as adjusting in a spirit of love. So the interesting thing, though, is that we teach in our path, everything happens for a reason, right? We happily say that as long as everything's going well in our lives. Everything happens for a reason. It's totally cool. We also say there are no coincidences, there are no spiritual mistakes, and we teach that things happen for a reason. But the reason isn't to see how tough we are. Some people think that the universe visits these all these things upon them to find out if they're tough. How many of you think you're tough? Okay, that tough one there, tough one there. How many of you think that you absolutely positively have to be tough all the time? How many of you think that it's okay to be sad? It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be resentful, disappointed, whatever. Guess what? You're human. That's why you came here. But when things happen, it isn't to see if we're just incredibly strong. It's to draw our attention to something that needs healing. If your feelings are hurt by the same thing again and again, a relationship that happens again and again, what do you think that's telling you? Something needs to be healed here. And someone that you know can hurt your feelings every time he or she opens their mouth. Do you think something needs to be healed? Mm-hmm. Maybe they do. Maybe they need a muzzle. But it is okay to adjust to events because we need to keep going. We can adjust to conditions because we need to keep going. And over the past several years, we've adjusted to a lot of things in our world. We've adjusted to long lines at the airport, right? Security checkpoints at the airport. We adjust to being x-rayed and searched and patted down and taking off our shoes and having people open our bags. And we're not very happy about it, but we've adjusted. If we live in a cold weather part of the world, how do we adjust? We adjust by, I'm just going to do one thing here for a second. It's crowding me. It's cramping my style. I'm adjusting. Yeah, see, this is better. Okay, because I'm afraid, too, that I'm going to back into this railing right here and be kind of silly there. Okay, so if you live in the cold weather, what do? You put on a sweater, you put on a coat, you put on gloves, you get some boots out. You probably put some stuff in your trunk like sandbags. Those of us who have lived in cold weather, we put sandbags in the trunk and shovels for the snow and all kinds of, and chains for the tires and things like that. If we move from a place where there is very little crime to a place where maybe there's a lot of crime going on around us, we might adjust by locking our houses or our cars or installing alarms or whatever. And adjusting is good, and that seems admirable, but it isn't always. Particularly when it comes to things that happen to us personally. I'm talking about different kinds of abuse. By the way, I just read a statistic. 26.3% of the women in Orange County, California, report some form of violence from their intimate partner. 26.3. In California as a whole, 40%.
Wow.
And it doesn't have to necessarily be hitting. It could be emotional abuse. It could be controlling behavior. So you may think, and we all may think, our lives are comparatively free of abuses, but I want you to know that abuse comes in many forms, and it doesn't just happen in the home. Unfair treatment. Have you ever been treated unfairly? Yeah. Misogyny, homophobia, racism, injustice, broken relationships, patriarchal attitudes, rape, murder, molestation, family secrets, shaming and blaming, and on and on. In these instances, adjusting is not healing. And I want you to hear that. Adjusting is not healing. There are people who adjust to an ongoing pattern of being mistreated. That is not healing. We don't heal these things often because we don't go to the cause, and I want you to be clear, because this may surprise you, the cause is not what happened. The cause is not what happened, the cause of our pain. We can't change that. We can't undo that. We don't have that magical wand yet to wind the clock back and say, boy, I wish I'd said such and such. We don't get to do that. The cause of our suffering is what we are thinking about what happened. Okay? But when we think the cause of our continuing pain is what happened, and we admit that we can't change what happened, then we go into, well, I'll just adjust to it. I'll just live with it. I'll just shut down my emotions. I'll just pretend that I don't hurt. Not healing. That's adjusting. That's also psychologists. What do they call it? Stuffing your emotions? Not a good thing. Does this mean you have to have a tantrum every few minutes? No. Does this mean that you have to honor your feelings? Yes. Okay. Adjusting to a reality where we are broken and need to just keep going. Soldier on, buck up. Has anybody said that to you? Oh, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Not healing. Okay? It's just surviving. In truth, the cause of our pain and suffering is our thinking about what happened. So, as you know, if we heal our minds, we heal our lives. Do you want to go through life being afraid? Do you want to go through life with carrying a pain, a burden with you? Probably not. So, New Thought 101. Well, you know this. It's very well stated by it's called the Kabbalion. States it this way. The universe is mental. It is held in the mind of all. Do you get that? Do you get that your reality is completely held in your mind? What you believe is what is. All right? We all agree that, this is a lectern over here, so it is a lectern. We don't all have to agree about that, but we happen to agree. Thought is the first cause of everything. So often we look at our lives and we point to the things that have happened. How many of you have carried around and told a story about something that happened long ago and have told it again and again? Just so people would know how brave you are, how much fortitude you have. Well, you do. You have fortitude. You're brave. But do you still carry the story with you? Okay? So we can point to all the external events that make us sad. We can point to politicians. We can point to the government. We can point to our relatives. They're always a source of something. We can point to our bosses, our co-workers. We can point to the bad driver who cut us off. And one way or another we say, they are the reason I'm feeling like crap today. Is that true? Not even. The way we feel is the effect. The cause is our thought about it. So just because someone sneered at you, anybody been sneered at lately by a clerk in a store? Anybody sneered at you in your house? You never know. And somebody says something hurtful, unconscious, not paying attention. The meaning that we put on that experience is, in other words, the thought we have about it is what causes us to feel anything about it. So, when somebody does something to us, we could stay happy. Could we? Could we stay in our happy place? Maybe not. Kind of, possibly, yes, okay. Well, I'm sorry, but we could. That's the deal. It's a choice. So just because someone did say something, we could observe that hurtful, rude person who just said something very unkind and say, gee, it must suck to be you. Maybe we won't say that out loud, but we'll think it, and we'll move on. Why? Do we want them to be in charge of our happiness? I don't. Okay? But we get mixed up because we're constantly looking at the world of effects and not the thoughts. So, for example, I see myself picking up this cup. What made the cup move? Was it my arm?
Your hand.
Was it my hand? Down here, give that little lady a gold star. It was that I thought I wanted to pick up the cup. Everything begins with a thought. But it happens so fast that we don't actually connect the thought with the action very frequently. Everything in your life starts with a thought. As I said, it happens very fast. The power that we wield as creators, we are using the engine of all creation in everything we do, means that we have to really pay attention what kind of fuel we're putting in. What happens if you put really bad fuel in your car? Yeah. It could sputter and die. It's kind of a rough ride, isn't it? So my grandmother used to say, pull up to the pump and go, filled up with high test. She just had a thing that the highest octane, of course that isn't necessarily true today, but she just felt like that was important. So, how about telling the story? To go back to every one of you in this room has a story, right? Could be pretty remarkably dramatic story. Could have a lot of sad parts to it. And some of us keep telling it and telling it and telling it ad infinitum. But that doesn't make this stage irrelevant. In other words, I'm not saying don't ever tell your story. In fact, telling the story is the beginning of healing. When women who are in abusive relationships tell the story, they have a chance to begin their healing process. Many people, women especially, but some men as well, have found the courage to tell the story of their abuse, or their unhappiness, or their pain. There is even a social media hashtag identifying these stories. It's now called Me Too. Many women especially are coming forward to say, Me Too, happened to me too. And I know there are likely a few individuals who jumped on the bandwagon so they could get some attention. But how do I know that they're the exception? I'll tell you why. Because the people telling their stories are, for the most part, already well known. They don't need attention. These are celebrities, these are actors, these are people in all walks of life who already are well known and already have a high profile. They didn't really need to get attention. So they don't need the shame, the heartbreak, the humiliation, the raw pain of telling their story. They don't need to feel the anger and skepticism of people who deny their experience, who want to pretend that none of this ever happens or will happen again, or worse, assert that it doesn't really matter that much. Well, it does matter, and only by bringing this into the light can we heal our society. I mentioned before, a new age has dawned, folks, and you're on the leading edge. Gene Houston would call all of you leaders of thought. You are on the leading edge of change. This is the age of Aquarius. What has been hidden is now revealed. What was once only a hope or a dream of possibility is now under the heading of I know. I know. The purity of truth rises despite the flow of garbage. It's just the way it is. The ones who have the deep courage to say, me too, I was abused, I was intimidated, I was bullied, I was raped, I was attacked, I was assaulted, I was mistreated, I was denied promotions, whatever it is. Their truth is fanning the flames of change, and isn't that what we want? So does the story matter? Yes, it does. Some of those who experienced the Holocaust, I recently saw a documentary, and they have told their stories. And they should tell their stories. But most of these courageous people have gone on to write a new story. They have said, yes, we were victims. Yes, I lost my family. Yes, I was treated this way. And that is recorded for all posterity so that we never forget. But they've gone on to write new stories. Does that make sense? So some human beings choose never to tell the story because it also means feeling the feelings. How many of you have gotten really emotional over telling someone a story of something that happened? It comes up, right? The pain, the sadness, the grief comes up. I know, Joe, you work with veterans who talk about their experiences. The feelings come up. In his book, and it's very hard, those feelings, but in his book, Radical Forgiveness, Colin Tipping says, the story and the emotions go hand in hand. They too are brought into the light. He goes on to say, and I really like this about Colin Tipping, he says, cry, wail, rage, beat your feet on the ground, feel it all, and know that you are telling your story with a purpose. Not just to tell it, not just to get some sympathy, not to get attention, but you are telling your story with a purpose, which is to heal your mind. So that you can then say, I will never again need to cry or wail and rage about this experience. Yeah, others may come along, but about this one. I am not telling my story to get sympathy or to make someone else feel better in comparison. Have you ever had that thing where someone tells a story and then you tell them how much worse yours is? The person who says blah, 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 and you go, oh, well, you think that's something. Everybody has a story. I was talking to my hairdresser yesterday. She has a young cousin. She has many thousands of cousins, apparently, but she's a young cousin who lives in Iran and has brain cancer. And he had the surgery. His family sold every single thing they own to pay for the surgery because health insurance is not really a thing there. And now he needs chemotherapy because it metastasized and he has another tumor. And one single chemotherapy treatment is $3,000. And his family just doesn't have it. So my hairdresser and many people are trying to raise some money on Facebook and different places. But again, if she told me that story and they said, oh, well, I have a story and I tried to top that, whom does that help? Nobody. I just listened and expressed my gratitude that she's out there trying to drum up contributions. So everybody has a story. And I love how the universe works. When you courageously tell your story with the conscious intention to heal, and to heal yourself, not make somebody else be healed, by your decision to stand and tell your story, by proxy, you give others permission to heal also. Not by trying to make them heal, but just because you've had the courage to tell your story. Healing is letting go of whatever is not who you are. Does anyone in this room think that they are anger? You don't think you're anger, right? You're not anger, you're not shame, you're not resentment, you're not bitterness. Is that who you are? No. You're beings of love. That's being who you are. Your soul wants to let go